Have you ever met someone who doesn't care? Someone who doesn't care is somebody who's decided that for whatever reason, they're not going to listen to you at all anymore. If it's a loved one, this is possibly the most painful thing imaginable, especially if you really have something important to tell them. I think we've all experienced this whatever attitude, particularly prevalent in teenagers, but often affecting people for much longer. When someone doesn't care, that means that they're no longer open to thinking things through, hearing reasons, or paying attention to their own knowledge. Even things they know are true, they ignore. This makes it literally impossible for anybody to do anything about it directly. No amount of explaining or convincing, even the most incredible, flawless arguments, will make any difference at all. This person is just tuning it out and stubbornly refusing to change their mind. This issue in the human sphere, where people can come to the point of not caring, is called Amalek. This is a name that we've all heard by now. Amalek has even made it into the daily news cycle. My goal in this video is to leave you with a thorough understanding of Amalek, who he is, what he represents, what that means for humanity, how important it is to know about his severely detrimental impact on the human condition and on humanity as a whole. Clearly, the presence of this attitude, which represents an all-out war against sacredness because it seeks to fill the world with a sense of meaninglessness, is a huge issue and can easily lead to our destruction. We're actually seeing the results of this very vividly right now. Finally, I do want to explain what it is that we can do about all this and how we can fight Amalek in our daily lives. This is all explained in our most ancient and deep sources, including our Kabbalistic sources, and I will be sticking faithfully to them. There is no other war in the Torah that Hashem takes as seriously or mentions as often as this war with Amalek, and that's for a reason. So this is going to be a multiple part series. It's going to be quite long. It's going to be very, very thorough. Enjoy. So, we know historically that Amalek is a person, the son of Eliphaz, which is a descendant of Esav, and he's the father of a nation. This nation is recorded as attacking the children of Israel in Parashat Bashalach of the Torah, right after they came out of Egypt, after the splitting of the sea. We have 3 mitzvot, 3 commandments of the 613 total regarding Amalek. 1 is to remember what Amalek did to us. 2 is to erase Amalek's memory from existence. And 3, to not forget his evil. So, are we looking for a physical people and nation to go and exterminate? Are we seeking for a lost nation to destroy even to this day, like some people like to claim? No. Of course not. The real truth of Amalek is not a person or a nation, but the spiritual force that that nation embodies, that precedes the birth of even Amalek himself. It is a well-known principle in the Torah that everything down here parallels something above, in the more abstract spiritual realms that our physical realm derives from. Amalek is a spiritual ideology, first and foremost, because the spiritual is more real and original than the physical. It may have been true that at some point, the ideology's presence in the world was embodied in a people, and during the time of the early prophets, we had a window in which we could fight them and fulfill the mitzvah in a physical sense. But that is no longer true today. Today, the sources tell us, Amalek is an ideology that has made it at home in the collective human psyche. The Zohar indeed confirms that all of these names in the Torah that come up again and again, like Amalek, Pharaoh, the Canaanite nations, represent unified concepts. Our job today is to fight Amalek's ideology, not through a physical war. Our job today is to fight Amalek's ideology, not through a physical war, but through expelling his ideology from humanity. Therefore, to truly understand Amalek, we need to understand how our soul works on a very deep level. This will help us see exactly why his ideology is able to take root in people and exactly how it destroys them and society. Then we will also be in a position to explain what we can do about it. So, firstly, a good question to start our journey with is, where does evil come from? And I'm not talking about from a scientific or secular perspective, of course, nor am I asking a theological question. I'm asking from a mystical perspective. I mean, think about it. If Hashem is good and wants goodness, how is it possible that we end up defying him? How is it possible? How is it possible? Where does evil get its life force from? That's what I'm asking. We can even ask the same question about children. Every child is born adoring and deeply, intrinsically connected to their parents. Every child naturally gravitates to emulate their beloved parents, take in their ways, and seek to fulfill their parents' wishes. Well, as every parent knows, the issues in their relationship begin when the child gets a taste for worldly pleasures. Once the kid finds what activities and delights in the world they like, they start to forget about their parents more and more in the pursuit of these desires. It all starts when the parent is out the room one day and the child sees a cookie jar unattended. The child has been told not to take without permission and knows this. But when there's a chance to have a lot of cookies, the child forgets all about that, forgets their parents, and gets so consumed with their desire for their cookies that they just go for it. The parent comes back and asks the child how they could do that when they know it's not allowed. The child is shocked and also doesn't know why they did it, because they remember now that it's forbidden and they love their parent and hate upsetting them. Even though the child is too young to articulate it, they feel like they went temporarily insane or blacked out. This analogy is what the sages said in the Gemara, that a person doesn't sin unless a spirit of foolishness falls upon them. Foolishness means not using your brain, specifically not being aware of the truth. The truth is that the child loves the parent, knows it's not allowed, and does not wish to do something that the parent doesn't want them to do. We too naturally appreciate Hashem's goodness, agree that He is great and is worth listening to, and naturally love Him and are grateful to Him. We only defy Him because of moments of forgetfulness. We forget about Him, we are unaware of Him, and in that state we become more animalistic and pursue our worldly pleasures, often in rather shameful ways. This is because of the principle that we have a good, holy version of intellect and emotions in us, and a corresponding darker, negative one, which is more animalistic. The 7 root emotions and character traits of this negative side are called the 7 Canaanite nations. Again, a demonstration of how the names in Torah represent ideas. When we are aware of Hashem and His goodness and holiness, this affects our soul in such a way that our positive qualities are empowered. As a result, our intellect, our emotions, and our very actions flow from a good, kind, just, holy version of ourselves, and the baser side of us just vanishes. Therefore, our daily goal is to ensure that we increase our awareness, especially our continual awareness of the sacredness of life, meaning Hashem's presence and need for us to be good and holy, as well as the needs of all our beloved family and friends, fellow human beings, and even our animals. They need us to be there for them, treat them right, love them, and it is our duty and responsibility to serve them. The more we study, the more we mature, the more responsibility to others that we are entrusted with, the more we become aware of how responsible we are to everyone around us, as well as how deeply we love them and need them. That will dispel this spirit of foolishness, of forgetting all of these things like a temporary amnesia, more and more. So, if you've been following, you probably think we're done. This explains all human evil, and therefore, good Torah education with lifelong study, as well as surrounding ourselves with good people and gaining life experience, are what is needed to defeat evil. Once we gain enough knowledge and wisdom, the spirit of foolishness can never truly return. We're too wise for it. And that is the end of evil, right? Wrong. Yes, the spirit of foolishness will never come back, but there is still Amalek. Amalek attacks even when we are not being foolish and ignorant. Amalek attacks when we know. Remember how we said that someone who doesn't care is impossible to deal with? Well, this is what we're talking about. Knowing the truth and not caring is Amalek. Look at how and when he attacked us. It was in the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and it was right after the splitting of the sea. This was a unique moment in history when the whole world knew about Hashem and respected Him. The spirit of folly was thoroughly expelled from the world. Amalek attacked then. As we said, this story is not limited to a nation or an event, but it's something representative of what goes on in our own soul, in our daily life. What kind of spirit does it take for someone to do evil even when they know it's wrong and that Hashem disapproves and is watching in front of His face? A spirit of chutzpah, brazenness, arrogance, and obstinacy. It is a spirit in us that is capable of not caring about the truth at all. This is something we see in a lot of people nowadays, as well as something we experience ourselves, either in us or in our beloved ones in their treatment of us, on more occasions than we'd like. We see someone who's decided that even though they know and agree that something is wrong, they don't care. They don't care about right and wrong anymore, and in fact, they object to it. They will do the wrong thing if they want and not care. On top of this, they will do so arrogantly, brazenly and even show off about it. If you do try to talk some sense into them or stop them, they will dig their heels in obstinately and fight back cynically with mockery, insults, and sheer audacity, chutzpah. Something we unfortunately see a lot of in these pro-Hamas protests, for example. They refuse to discuss, they refuse to explain, and when the leaders, because most of them are usually just suffering from a spirit of folly, when the leaders are interviewed, and they are certainly not being foolish, they know exactly what Hamas did and represents, they mock, they ridicule, and they have that very annoying smirk on their face when someone tries to say the truth, which they then proceed to mock and ridicule and, play whataboutism and all that. So even though this attitude may exist across a spectrum, it can be very minor, like the apathy in a teenager, to the full-on nihilism of people like Hamas and their supporters. The ultimate end state of this is an ideology of meaninglessness. It's a war on meaning itself. Amalek seeks to rid the world of meaning so that it can be whatever. We learn this from the verses in Devarim. Asher korcha baderech, describing Amalek as the one who encountered you on the way. The Hebrew word here for encountered is keri. Keri literally means happenstance, coincidence, randomness, i.e. meaninglessness. As in, it's just a coincidence that he happened upon you on the way. There's no meaning in it, right? Amalek is the embodiment of the idea that nothing really matters. Notably, the word keri has the exact same letters as the word yakar, which means precious, preciousness. And he tries to convince us to stop caring about precious things and just do whatever. Indeed, the deep sources explain his objection as this. He objects to the mind and the truth ruling the heart. And we will need to get into that soon, because that will help us in preventing him getting a foothold in our psyche. But before that, I want to discuss the theology first. So stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to get into some very deep theology. So this is the end of this video. The next video is going to be theological. It's going to be deep. It's going to be philosophical. And I'd be very impressed if people would give it a go. And even if they don't understand all of it necessarily, I'm sure they can take away a lot. And they can also get a nice feel for how impressive and beautiful the Torah is. And they will gain some good knowledge about Hashem, I'm sure. All right, see you there.